You are now tuned in to Let's Talk About Healing.
And for the version of me that got me here did its job. But this version of me has to evolve again in order to get to the next level.
We're so focused on the negative outcome. Change the narrative that's going on in your head instead of looking at what can go wrong. Obsess over what can go right.
That part.
Now here's your host, Yvonne Pierre.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Healing. If this is your first time tuning in, feel free to let us know and introduce yourself in the comments. And if it's not your first time, feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm your host, Yvonne Pierre, and I'm joined by my guest host, April F Draine. Today, we're talking about the gifts and challenges of motherhood. Hello, April.
Hey, Yvonne. I'm going to be good today.
Hey, girl. Hey. Well, let's talk about it, huh? How do you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally prepare for bringing a new life into this world?
Let's say it took 3 times for me to finally figure out how to really, in my opinion, get better at it. You know, look at everyone else who's done it, but when it's you, your first time, you're really just throwing a whole lot of everything and hoping that it works. And then you're also figuring out you're not who you once were. Going from being single to being a mother, just the thought of that takes time. And then when you go through the physical changes, the emotional changes, hormonal changes, while you're pregnant, and then after having the baby, now what was inside of me, that baby is now outside of me. I'm now responsible for a whole life. And you find yourself going through the whole, at least the first time, it takes, you read all the books, you ask all the questions, you go to all the classes, and you highlight all the things in the books and the podcast and all the YouTube videos, and you ask every woman in your family, and you do all of that with your first baby. And still, there will be something or some things that you just could not be prepared for until it actually happens. And you do all the things, and that's what you're supposed to do. Anytime you're embarking on anything new, you definitely want to do all you can to prepare, pray, fast, eat, go to the doctor appointments. Let me make sure I'm getting good health, and let me make sure financially I'm good. And still something will come up that you weren't prepared for. And that's just life. And that's what comes with motherhood. So my first time around, I was 19. So you're 19, you don't know, you're still trying to figure yourself out as a person. And so my first time around, it was a learning experience for my daughter and myself. My second time around, I was married, had my son. And that was still different because now I'm doing it, but I'm doing it with a husband this time. And I have a son.
Yeah.
And what I went through with my first is not necessarily the same with this one. But now it's bringing its own set of challenges and gifts and all the things. And we're moving houses while I'm just having a baby a month old. Then my third one, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me at least take off a full month from work. Let me just go ahead and just start my FMLA early so I can really do the whole nesting thing that I hear women talk about, because I didn't do it my first 2. So I'm going on and say each person is different. And something like my experience and your experience compared to the next lady's experience, there can be some foundational things that are kind of similar, but there will still be something unique that is specifically unique to you and that situation and that particular child and that particular health diagnosis with them or yourself, or all the things that come that you're not necessarily prepared for. But there is something that, okay, God, if you allowed me to bring this child into this world, I'm trusting that you're going to give me the resources and the skills and the know-how and the intuitiveness and that mother wit that they talk about, I'm just praying that it's going to eventually just keep growing, and I'm just going to keep getting better. And Lord, I pray I don't mess my kids up. It's like, it can be so deep.
Yeah.
But then again, it's just you've never raised this child. This child is not the same as the last child. Each child is different. So you can't treat this child the same way. That child slept through the night. This child doesn't. So each child brings their own set of challenges. So you prepare as best as you can, but nothing really prepares you for motherhood until you really just get into it. And you and that child and your support system or village, if you prayerfully have one, you all figure it out together. You learning that baby, and that baby's learning you. My mama told me at my 40th birthday, this quick story, and I'm going to let you, I want to ask your thoughts. At my 40th birthday, when everyone was giving their well wishes, she spoke and she said, when I had you, it was 6 years after the doctors told me I couldn't have kids. And so I didn't think your dad and I could ever have kids. And then found out I was pregnant with you. And once they put you in my arms, I looked at you and you looked at me. And I remember saying, hi, my name's Ruby. Your name's April. I don't know you and you don't know me. But I guess we can figure this thing out together. And she said at my 40th birthday, she said, and at 40, I think I'm just now starting to really learn who you really are. And I broke down crying.
Wow.
But it was just like, she never told me that. But the fact that even my mama at that time, I'm 40 years old, she was saying, I didn't know you, you didn't know me, but that was the only thing I knew to say to you when they put you in my arms. Like, I don't know who this baby is, but I guess we're going to figure it out. And here it is 40 years later. I think I'm just now starting to figure out who you really are or learn who you really are. So motherhood is really like a journey. It is just definitely a journey of you learning you.
It is.
The different seasons and phases of you as you're also learning the different seasons and phases of that child. So, yeah.
Wow.
What about you?
Yeah. I have Zaire and Zion. Zion is 21 now. Zaire is 31. And when I got pregnant with Zaire, I was going to a business college. I had maybe a year in. I embraced it faster than I thought I would, because I just had this belief in my head that I wouldn't have kids. And so when I did get pregnant, of course, it wasn't intentional, but it was an absolute blessing. So my oldest, I was 19 when I got pregnant. I was 20 when I had him. And I'm thinking I'm a late bloomer because
Really?
I had friends and family that had kids in high school. So I didn't see myself as a young mom, even though I was a teenager when I got pregnant. But I had a friend in middle school that was on her third child. Yeah, process that.
How about the time
in
19?
middle school.
Okay.
And so I'm just saying why I thought I was late. And I used to go to the clinic was across the street from our middle school. So I would skip school and hang out with her and go with her to the doctor because she used to be scared to go by herself for her checkups during her pregnancy. And I didn't think anything about it. I just was like, ooh, she having a baby. I didn't think, oh my God, you're in middle school. Like I didn't process it like that.
Okay.
So when I had mine at 19, it was like, oh, I'm a late
I can
bloomer.
see that though. I can understand that.
Yeah. So, but as far as prepping mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I thought I was ready.
Wow.
I had got so much pushback from like my grandmother and stuff that it was like, no matter, what happens, this is my son and it's me and him against the world. I just had this, by all means necessary, I'm going to be the best mom I can be for him. I had got kicked out of school and I was, I wanted to be a better person in general before I got pregnant. But during my pregnancy, my view changed. My view of relationships changed because me and his father are not together. And I'm not going to get into that story, but we didn't have a relationship. No. I'll just say that. We didn't have a relationship. Changed my perspective of not just dealing but to be serious about if this is not going to be a relationship, then We just can't have casual relations. You know, so I got very, very serious. I don't want nobody touching me if it's not going to develop into something other than casual sex. How is he as a, around kids? If he have kids, how is he as a father? I'm not just looking at the basic, how attractive the person is and all that stuff. I'm looking deeper into the character of this person. What type of, it had to be deeper. And even when I met my husband, we've been together 25 years now. My youngest son is his. So even approaching that pregnancy, of course, like you were saying, I was a single mom with my oldest, but I wasn't a single mom with my youngest. So it was totally different. But I wish I would have went to classes. I did not prepare as far as that. And I wish I would have spent a little more time. I just, in my mind, was like, I don't want to be that type of mother. I grew up in a toxic household. So it was a lot of things I didn't want to pass down. But as far as prepping, it was time for me to grow up. It was time for me to get a little more serious about life, career. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Then it was like, oh, wait a minute. I really need to think about my future. How I'm going to provide this child some stability and love. And so I don't want to go too far because then we'll
but I feel like we both have similarities in that, and I think a lot of women as well in regards to whether you were with the father after the pregnancy or you were married or whatever the circumstance. As a mother, there's still a part of you that recognizes I have to protect who I allow now around my child. I'm like, if you're not all mothers, come on, let's be not all mothers really think about
that's
that.
True.
But if you really embrace the true value of motherhood, you will also learn to protect that asset of that child as well as who you bring into your circle. So the fact that you mentioned like, okay, situation my first, which was similar to mine, it was okay, God didn't plan on being a single mama, but now that I am, I had to be honest with myself and say, I don't really trust myself to pick somebody else because I thought I knew, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And now that I'm here, I ended up doing what you did. I choose to be celibate and abstinent because Lord, this is how for real I am now because this baby didn't ask to be here. I did what I did. I have to own my part of it. She had no choice in the matter. But now that she is here, okay, God, I don't want to bring anyone else into my life who will not be of a benefit for both me and her. So when you started to mention the story as far as like that kind of struck with me as well. And I think as women, we have to really put that out there. You really do have to protect who you bring into your life with or without children. Okay, let's start there, with or without children, because that's another story. Who you lay down with, listen. So we do have to vet people. We have to be clear about our standards. And if you find yourself in a situation where you and I are similar in where our first was not with our now husbands, okay, there is a metamorphosis that you have to go through mentally, emotionally, all the things to say, okay, I own it. I recognize it. I see it. And what habits and what part of me attracted X, Y, and Z? Do I want to continue that? If I don't, let me go to the other extreme. So the other extreme is I was having sex, which why I had this baby. So if I don't want any more, let me stop having. So, you have to figure out what got me here. What is it that I'm trying to get to? And if I don't want to continue along this path, what in me has to change? What is it that I want to attract? What and who do they look like? Not like on the physical side. Like, of course, you want to be attracted to him, but can he bring?
What are their morals and their values?
Can I trust him around my child, who will be? I will say he is raising our child. This is my child, but if we're married, okay, I'm looking to him to be a father figure for our child. This is our child, and I want to feel safe knowing that my child is safe in his presence in my absence. So. Motherhood, it brings and you mentioned it, you have to grow up. That play stuff, motherhood brings a whole nother level when you are responsible for a whole nother person. It's one thing when you have to be responsible for yourself, but now wait, hold up. What I do can now affect me and this child. That's some grown up stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mama when I had my daughter, I was birthing that baby and I was screaming, crying, all the things because it was only my mom, myself, and the nurse because the doctor didn't get there in time. And I remember once I pushed Jasmine out, I looked at my mama and she'll remind me of this ever so often. I said, Mama, I'm a grown woman now. Mama, I'm a grown woman now. I don't know why of all things, that was what I thought I should say. But it was like, I just birthed this whole 8-pound, 10-ounce thing out of my body
A whole
with
human.
no epidural and no doctor. Mama, I'm a whole woman now.
Yeah.
And she said, you sure are. She said, I remember just saying, I'm going to say whatever she want me to say because you was looking so crazy. But in my mind, it was like, I'm a grown woman now. I done birthed a whole baby.
Yeah.
And baby, I learned what being grown was all about. So yeah, not to go too long on that one, but you said several things that resonated. And I just wanted to just ping off of it because I could relate to several of the things that you were saying.
Yeah. The thing too that I realized in just what we're saying, you know, when we having a child and having to have to protect this whole nother life made you develop values and morals that I didn't have before. But it made me question, so I didn't value myself.
Wow.
I didn't value myself, but my son gave me a perspective that made me put some value on not just myself, but also him. It's truly amazing. So speaking of that, what shaped your views as far as motherhood?
At that point, when I had, up until my first child, of course, like with anybody, you're looking at who you see around you. Like, you know, what is everybody else doing? Does everybody else have a mom in their home? And I had my mom. My mom lived in the home with us. I grew up with her and my dad. They're still married, been together 47 years, I think. So I grew up seeing my mom in the house. And when I was younger, my great aunt lived with us. So it was a point where my great aunt stayed with us for several years, like lived in the home with us and helped my mom and dad while they worked to help take care of my brothers and I. And sometimes our cousins and stuff too, who would come over to the house after school because we stayed in the neighborhood around a lot of families. So I grew up seeing a lot of women, a lot of strong women, a lot of women who just pull together and, okay, you pick up my baby on this day or they're going to spend the night at your house. So I saw a village of women amongst both my dad's sisters and my mom and her sisters. And my grandmamas, I lived within 10, 15 minutes of both my grandmothers when I was younger. So what I saw growing up was there were always women who were taking care of kids. They were all, whether they were their kids or not. And some family members you didn't know, oh, wait, that's not her child. That's so-and-so's child. So I was so used to seeing women taking care of kids when I was growing up that's what I saw as far as motherhood. That women just took care of each other's kids. Women stepped in for each other. Sometimes the woman would live with you, like my great aunt who stayed with us. So they helped shape my view of what motherhood looked like. And all I saw was just really, there was always a village of women who pulled together to help each other out. That's what initially shaped my view of motherhood. When I got into motherhood, I learned the stuff that you don't see as a child, or that you don't, like when they say this grown folks conversation, I ended up being part of grown folks conversation once I became a mother, because then I started to see that, while I did see a lot of the women pull together and help take care of each other's kids, some of that was some toxic stuff. Some of that was, wait, some of that she really didn't like her, or they didn't get along. And so some of the things that I thought that I would initially see or receive, even though the way I grew up was having children out of wedlock was a sin, and God didn't. And so, like, I recognized and I knew that it wasn't the way God ordained. Like he wants you to have a husband and wife and bring children into the world, and there's a reason for that. And so I understood that part biblically and from the way my family had raised me. But I was still thinking and hoping, like, okay, even though this baby didn't come into the world like the traditional or way the Bible says she was to come into the world, I'm still expecting, though, to see that village of women like I saw when I was growing up. I'm still expecting to see those mothers who were at church, the motherboard and the women at the church. And what shifted for me as far as my view of motherhood when I became a mother was I did not initially see that same type of village. And that hurt me in ways that I didn't realize and I couldn't articulate. And even right now, as I'm saying it, I think that was part of the disconnect as to why I'm like, I don't understand why it's more shame being put on me and my child versus still loving on them. Like, not to say everybody didn't do that. It was still, some of the women who were saying it were women who had also had children out of wedlock, but they were the ones who were speaking up more loudly. I spent more time focusing on the women who I know she went through the same thing I went through, or I'm not the only one in our family who's ever had a child out of wedlock. I'm not the only teenager. I'm not the only one. Yeah. And rather than focus on the ones who still showed up and supported and spoke life over me and my baby and all the things, I spent more time in my first couple of years of motherhood focused on the ones who did not live up to what I saw when I was younger. But yeah, that's the part that shifted from what initially shaped me to my reality, my first real experience of motherhood. And then to see some of those same women when I did have my second child, when I was married, some of those same ones, then they were more supportive. And that was another thing that really vexed me. I don't want those set of women who are feeling what I have felt, that, okay, as long as you do it married, okay, girl, yeah, we support you. I'll help watch you, baby. But now you got to figure it out. That's you got yourself into it. You need to figure it out. Wait. That's what we're doing. So you can support me if I have a husband and okay, yeah, I can help. No, I got help now. But when I didn't have her, when her father wasn't in my life, I heard several women who I just could not believe were just bold enough to tell me the things of. So now that's why you got to go in public assistance, because see, you should have, if you had did this and if you had done this, then you ain't no better than nobody else, so you'll figure it out. That wasn't the experience I thought I would have as a first-time mother. I already felt the things that I felt, but to see the women who shaped me and some of those same ones to just not be the same, that was different. So again,
so how did that impact your view on motherhood in general?
If anything, it showed me the same thing that what we were just talking about, as far as who you let into your circle, or as far as who I want to attract now. Okay, if you're not good for me, you definitely not gonna be good for my baby. So it was, I started to see, while yes, family, they said blood is thicker than water, I think is how the saying goes, or family over everything. There is truth to that. And I get to determine what my family looks like, because I can't determine what family I was born into. I was just born into this family, but I get to choose who I do life with. I get to choose. So I have some friends who I consider family. Like I would call her my sister because you act like a sister. Or I would call him my brother because you act like a brother. Or I have an aunt who I consider like a second mama, and she considers me a daughter. So if anything, it showed me that while yes, they are family, while yes, she is a mother on the motherboard, or while yes, they hold this certain position in the church or in the community, okay, they're not acting like what they say they are in this particular situation that you would need them to be. So, okay, if they're not good for you, you definitely don't want to have them around your child. And I have a right to stand up for myself and my daughter in a way where it's like, okay, if you're not supporting me, I'm definitely not going to let you spew stuff over her. I'm not going to have you saying negative stuff about me. And she's an impressionable child, and she's going to hear something you say. And so she's going to walk away with a level of shame because you family and we family. No, no ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am, no sir. So if anything, it showed me, or it began to teach me that I really do have to be more intentional about my choices, whether you're family or not, whether you're a man or not. if you are not good for me
Yeah.
and my child, you are not good
Yeah.
for us. Not to say you're not a good person. You're just not good for us.
Right.
And that is what I can stand on.
Yeah.
And don't get me to try to explain why, because now I'm a whole grown woman. Because I said this, I'm a grown
Yeah.
woman. I'm a
I'm
grown
grown
woman.
now. I just spit out a whole human.
Listen, that does something to you for real. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going
Yeah.
in circles. But yeah, and I'm sure you can attest to the same thing. There have been certain situations that you probably were expecting one thing, and then life happened, or whatever happened, a child happened, a situation happened, and you had to learn, okay, maybe I need to, even though this is what initially shaped my view based off of these latest occurrences, okay, I have to pivot and reassess some things based off of what I'm still, because I want to be a whole healthy human being. I'm not trying to be walking around being dysfunctional. No shade to anybody out there. If
Yeah.
that's what you want to live in, fine. But if it doesn't work for me, I have to know that is not what I want. And you said that a little bit earlier. You learn what it is you want to imitate and repeat, and then you learn, I don't want to repeat
Yeah.
that, so let me figure it out. So I'm sure you can say some of the, not that necessarily the same situation as mine, but something that probably shaped you.
It's similar.
Yeah.
I grew up around people who had a distorted view of love. I'll just say it that way. And their love language wasn't necessarily my love language. But before I had my kids, and I'll say too, I grew up around people who were unhealed, who had a lot of wounds, from whatever happened to them in their life. And sometimes people project their pain.
Yeah,
And that's what caused the toxicity and the dysfunction and all that stuff is people that really need to heal. Before I had my son, I never thought about motherhood. I never just sat and gave it thought about what type of mother I would be, because I assumed I wouldn't be. I never thought about motherhood in general. It might have been a passing thing, like, oh, I'll never do that.
Yeah.
If I have kids, you know what I mean? But it was nothing I sat down and really gave consideration to, a thought to. So my perspective, when I had my son, because I grew up around so many single moms, it was mixed. It was I had friends that had both their parents. I had friends that had single parents. Family, I had a lot of family that had both their parents, and some that didn't have both their parents. So it was mixed. But as far as the mothers of either one of the situations, married or not, I pulled what I felt was healthy from either situation. I didn't look at it as wedlock or out of wedlock, because I looked forward to it just being me and Zaire.
Really?
I'm going to get a big house and we going to live like this, and it's just going to be me and him. And so my views were from around me. My views were from what shaped my view was seeing mothers on TV and seeing, oh wow, I love how she teach her daughter, or I love how this person is with discipline. They don't beat them. They talk to their kids. Wow, what a concept. They have a conversation. So it's certain things that I desired that I didn't receive, that I wanted to make sure that I passed down to my kids. And that's, I'm still learning and growing and learning me and learning life and still learning about motherhood. But I wanted to make sure the core things were there, like teaching them values, teaching them God, teaching them, confidence, teaching them to love themselves, stuff that, I was emotionally, physically abused, and told negative stuff, constantly, oh, you're a bad kid, oh, you this, oh, you know. And I said, I'll never do that to my children because I see how unproductive it is and the damage that it did to me that has taken me years to unravel. And I forgive them because they did the best they could. They didn't seek to heal, so they passed down a lot of dysfunction from their parents. But I saw that and I was like, oh no, we're not doing that. And I did early on catch myself passing down some things. And I said, oh my God, what am I doing?
You asked the question, which is something I don't think everyone does. Why do we keep repeating this? Or why do we keep doing this? So did you find yourself being curious as to why they were the way they were?
I was, and I needed to know their backstory.
Come on.
You know, so I would ask questions because it helped me understand them more and realize a lot of things that I took personal growing up. It had nothing, a lot of the upbringing had nothing to do with me. It had to do with their own pain. It had to do with their projection of their fears and they not realizing that they're being toxic, that they're being negative. And I'm not going to take away all of, you know, they got to be accountable for some stuff, but it helped me to understand so I can let it go because I didn't want to carry on anger and bitterness from my upbringing. So in order for me to heal from it, I had to deal with it and I had to face it. And not just that, I had to understand. So even as a teenager, I used to sit up around my grandmother and just ask her questions. The more I understood the toxicity that she grew up around, the more I could understand things she was doing. And I was able to forgive and let go. But I also realized, oh my God, if we don't heal as parents, as people, it's damaging to our kids if we don't
And we
heal.
don't recognize it until we get grown.
Yeah. And your kid is asking you to go to therapy with them.
So it's like somebody got to stop this soon. And then our kids are a reflection of us too. They are some of the best mirrors of ourselves. You'll see something in them. You're like, where they get that from? And it's like they saw it somewhere, or they wait. And when you do that thing, wait, did they get that from me? Wait, do I do that? Is that what I look like? Kids will, and if you don't some people, they'll see it, and rather than deal with it, it's like they'll laugh at it. Oh, that's so cute, or she's so silly.
Or or
you denied so long, but it's like, okay, you denying a part of you. You denying a part that they found or recognized or saw you do, and they're repeating what they saw or what you passed on. And until we get grown enough or get scared enough to face it or whatever the thing, to be able to look at it like,
and some people never do
that part.
Yeah, some people never do. And some people don't even realize what they're taking out on their kids, and they thinking, oh, well, my parents did it. Just because your parents did it don't mean it was right. So we have to mature and realize, and we have to recognize the things our parents did right, because there was some good that they did, but we have to also realize what they did wrong. And if we are not willing to take a look at that, we're not willing to take a look at things we did ourselves. Like, I've sat my son down several times. Like, okay, do we need therapy? He's like, no. You know, so I'll just ask him, is there anything that I did or anything that I said that you carry? You know what I mean? Because maybe I said or did something.
To be able to even initiate that conversation, let alone be willing to sit in the answer, because he could give you the answer.
Yeah, because I want him to be the best he can. And the only way he can be the best he can is I have to recognize the parts. Parents play a major role in their kids' life.
Come on.
Oh, and so I had to be adult enough to say, okay, is there anything we need to deal with that you're not telling me? Is there anything that I said? Because I realized a lot of stuff when he was smaller. I did a lot of stuff, passed a lot of stuff on that was passed to me, as far as, the whoopings and the, yelling at him and all that stuff. And I was like, and I caught it when he was small, and I said, oh, this is not love. This is not love. And I wept. And I said, I will never beat I will never hit. Well, I probably hit him again after that, but it wasn't.
No, yeah, I hear you.
But it wasn't the same, because I was like, what am I teaching him? What am I teaching him about love? If I hit him and I say, I'm doing this because I love you, what am I teaching him that's going to, and what am I teaching him that's going to pass down to his wife?
See, you're thinking 2 steps ahead.
This is not the reflection of love that I want to pass down to my child. I don't want my child to think that hitting is love. I didn't want him to think that, so I would have talks with him. Those talks was like beatings. Do you hear me? Because he used to be like, please just beat me and get it over with.
Because each child is different, each woman, because they all receive or hear things differently. And you have to know your child. You have to be in tune enough with your child.
I didn't want this to be a reflection of love for him. I didn't want what I was doing for him to think it was love.
You had a vision of what that looked like. That's what was starting to speak to me. You had a vision of what love would look like, or what you desired for love to look like.
As he got older
and as household.
And as he projected love to his kids and his wife and his friends and I'm like, I have to be an example of the love that I want. I want him to be a loving person. I want him to be a caring person. I can't expect that if I'm being abusive to him.
That part.
And I had to think about, okay, what did this do for me? It made me angry. It made me lash out. I was fighting all the time. I was in abusive relationships that I figured, well, he loved me. Well, he's projecting, he's just upset, just like mama was upset. And then I had to also think about, where did this come from?
So you had reverse engineer.
Where did beating your kids?
See, come on, healing.
That came from slavery.
Come on.
And we're constantly passing that fear. And people used to be like, oh, I want my child to fear me. And I was like, I don't want my child to fear me. I don't want him to fear God either. I want him to love God. I want him to fear disappointing God.
There you go.
But I don't want you to be so afraid of me that you won't come to me when you need me.
That's the difference.
I don't want you to be so afraid of me that when something happened, you feel like you can't talk to me, even if you was in the wrong. And that's the type of relationship I wanted with my kids. Even if you're wrong, sit and talk to me. And of course they're going to be teenagers. Of course they're going to stick, because they got, and I had to realize as a mom that they're going to go through their own stuff. God has a map for them, just like God had a map for me and all of us. And I had to realize, when do I come in? When do I fall back? Those are the things that I had to figure out and learn. And I was still learning, because also I had to learn boundaries. We think about boundaries for everybody else but our kids. And I don't mean I can't walk in their room. I don't mean that. Until you grown, there's certain things, But, like, for example, I used to take Zaire to work, and I looked at it as an opportunity for us to bond, because he moved out when he was like 19. So taking him to work, he likes to listen to music and mellow out before he gets to work. But in my mind, this is my opportunity to put some seeds in his spirit. So
come on, gardener.
Come on, seeds. So I'm trying to speak to him. And one day he just said, Mom, sometimes I just like quiet on my way to work so I can get my mind in the right space. But I still got this opportunity to have a talk with him. And I was having these talks. And I realized, oh my God, I'm not respecting his boundaries. And what am I teaching him about allowing other people to disrespect his boundaries?
Talk about it. Come on. Yeah.
Even with Zion is a loner. And me, my husband, all of us are introverted. So we like our space. So with Zion, he like when he's in his room playing his music. He got a whole concert. He got lights going. He doing a whole show. Okay.
Hang out with him. Okay.
Yes. And I just got him a karaoke that got lights on it. And he just yeah. So, but when I come in the room, he'll just blank stare at me like, "Why are you in here?" And he'll turn everything off. Bloop, turn it all off, and just look at me like, "Why are you in my room?" And I was like, "Oh, you don't want? Boy, turn that music on." And I'll sit down in his room and be like, "Turn the music on. Come on, let's dance." Because in my mind, I'm like, "Come on, let's have fun together. Let's spend some time together." But then I'm like, I'm not respecting his boundaries. You know, like, no, we finna hang out. And he looking at me like, no. Like, he don't say it. Oh, no, he'll look at me and say, please. Yeah, like, please get out my room. So he liked his space. And I had to realize when I was talking about boundaries last year, and I was watching something and they was talking about boundaries, and I said, oh, I don't respect my kids' boundaries. So I called my oldest son and I apologized to him. I said, I'm so sorry for all the times that I disrespected your boundaries.
That's huge.
The times you needed quiet, but I just talked anyway. The times, you know, you were busy and I just was like, because I'm your mom, you know. So I did apologize and I said that was wrong of me for not to respect your boundaries. And the reason why I apologized, too, one, because I really felt bad. And then two, I apologized because I wanted him to recognize that what I did wasn't cool, even though he was like, no, it's cool. I mean, we need that time and blah, 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 whatever. I said, yeah, but if you set a boundary, if you set a boundary, then I have to respect that boundary. So what I started doing is putting the seed in music, huh? So I would, you know, put something on. Never mind. But anyway, so
find a way.
I would put music on that had the message that I wanted to pass on to him. So, but so now he'll call me just to talk. He'll call me on his breaks from work just to talk.
You reverse engineer that thing to say, okay, if this is what I want our relationship to look like, where he can feel like he can talk to me and I don't feel like I'm pushing him away at this new age and stage of his life and whatever. Okay, so let me find another route to find a way to still get that, okay, where I can still respect his boundary. Okay, he wants his own. So that takes intentionality, that takes curiosity as to what is it that makes you tick, what is it that works for you, where is it that we can find common ground.
His love language is not mine. His love, Zion, we're very affectionate. Huggy, face hug, you know. We're very, Zaire is in a way, but he's not. His love language is different. It's not very affectionate, you know. But I would do it anyway. Oh, you gonna get this forehead kiss. So, but I had to pull back and realize he got to get there for himself. I can't, make that be his love language, and I can't take it personal, that's not, because I just drop him off at work, right? He worked at a school. He trained the band, the marching band. He's a drummer. So he trained the percussion section. So when he get out the car, I'll say, bye, I love you.
Come on, Yvonne. Wait a minute. Wait.
Because I do that to Zion. So I'm not thinking nothing about it. He had a talk with me. He said, look.
Listen, mother.
Listen, mama, listen. He said, you're not dropping a kid off.
Wait, how old was he?
You dropping a grown man. You dropping a grown man off at work. And these are my students.
Yeah.
He was like, and I was like, I can't say. So so the next time I dropped him off, I said, I love you. Have a good day.
You gonna still get this love.
Before he got out the car, I said, I love you.
Have a good day.
He was like, mm-hmm. But I had to pull back and not take that so personal. I would take it personal. So, yeah, a lot of things shaped my view of motherhood, and it's still shaping. It's still shaping. I'm still, because this is new. This whole boundary thing has been the past year.
Ooh, yeah.
About a year, maybe a year or two, that I'll recognize that, oh man, I've been disrespecting boundaries. Even with my husband and I, he can be busy and I'll just walk in and just start talking. And I had to realize I'm not respecting his space.
Just you being self-aware. I mean, all the things you're saying, as far as like, you're recognizing the response that they're giving you. It's like, wait, that's not the response I wanted. Mm-hmm. Or you'll hear something that's like, wait, if you're always curious, because as a mother, or as long as you're on this earth, you're going to keep changing. Yeah. And so, or transitioning in different seasons. So the fact that you were willing to be self-aware enough to say, hey, I do just walk in the room to start talking. Wait, he may not. Do you like that? I mean, because some people.
And I don't like it.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Because I'm like, you're not respecting that I'm busy. You're not paying attention to what I'm doing. You're just walking in and demanding my attention. And when I realized I was doing it, it was like, oh my God. Am I doing it because other people do it to me? And I'm like, but that's not, either way is not right. So I now be like, oh, I wanted to talk to you about something. Let me know, when we can talk. Oh, I'll send him a text. Like if he's in his office and if it's something just real brief, I'll just text it to him and not take it personal. And not take it so personal and realize, you just respecting people boundaries. And like I said earlier, a lot of times we see that as far as boundaries, we see it with other people, but we don't respect it as because my boundaries were not respected at all as from my mother or my grandmother. Is like, I'm your mother. I need this and I need you to do it right now. And I don't care what you're doing. So, and I was like, I don't want to pass that down. But anyway, we veering. On to the next question.
I'm flowing with you. It's just like I'm flowing with you. Let me say that I'm flowing with you. Mm-hmm.
Over the years, what has been the greatest challenge as far as parenting in general? What has been the, you could say per kid or just in general, what has been the greatest challenge and how did you overcome it?
I can honestly, and this will sound selfish.
Mm-hmm.
My greatest challenges really had less to do with my children, probably, and more to do with myself. Because each child brought up something in me or the circumstances around that particular child as far as when they were birthed or how they were birthed or whatever. Like with my oldest, my biggest challenge with her was just trying to prove to other people that I was still valuable. So while, yes, I'm still going to take care of this child and protect her and make sure that whoever I date is going to be suitable for me and her. And thankfully, and God blessed it so where I met my husband 2 months after my oldest. So he's been in her life since she was 2 months old.
Wow.
But even with that, though, it was still, I was always trying to prove to other people that she is still valuable, I'm still valuable, despite how you all treated or see or view or X, Y, and Z. Or yes, I was on public assistance. Yes, I had to move schools. And yes, I had to stay at home. And yes, I had to figure this out. And yes, I had to stay an extra year in school. And yet still, look, I still graduated. It was always, I was trying to prove something with my oldest. And then with my son, it was like see, told you. I could get a husband. See, told you.
And your son is your
my
second?
son is my middle son, my middle child, my second child.
Okay.
So I have daughter, son, daughter. So it was more, again, my biggest challenge, and it took me years to figure it out, that I spent so much time trying to prove to other people how valuable I and my children were based off of the circumstance. Okay, this one's born out of wedlock. We still valuable, and I'm gonna prove it to you. And I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna still finish school, and I'm gonna still do this, and I'm still do this, and I'm still doing this. And then it was because one person told me no man wants a ready-made family. Because one person told me that, I was trying to prove to everybody. Because one person said it, and so
ain't that something? I just want to interject real quick. Ain't it something how we pay more attention to the negative comments than we do, and that's on social media, that's in person, that's before the internet. You know, we always pay more attention to the naysayers than we do those who are on our side.
And that's what I found myself doing. It again, it took a lot of years after all three kids. Like my oldest is 21, youngest is 13. So it's taken me some years to figure out. My earlier challenges had less to do with me being a good mother to them as much as being a challenge of me feeling like I was still worthy as a woman in this world. I'm worthy as a woman single. I'm worthy now as a woman married. And I'm going to prove to see, I told you, look, I still got a husband anyway. Look, he a minister. Now what? What you got to say about that? It was all these internal dialogues that I was having with people with each whatever. If I got a promotion, with the third child, it was like, see, look, I can be fruitful and I still got a good. It was these internal things going on with people who had made a comment years before. And later I found out it was one relative I actually confronted about something that her children said to me when I was pregnant. And I held on to that comment from my little cousin who was 10, who told me what her mama said about me while I was pregnant. I held on to that statement from a 10-year-old all the way up until I was a grown woman with all three kids, married, doing fine. And I ended up confronting that aunt about what her child said to me. And the aunt looked at me like, who said that? I said, she said, you said X, Y, and Z about me while I was pregnant. And it was probably at that moment that I began to realize, because when I told her, that aunt looked at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know. Wait a minute, she said, I said that? And I'm like, she said, when was this? And she was trying to pinpoint and da-da-da-da-da. And the more I was thinking about it, I was like, April, you have been holding on to something that happened like 10, 15 years ago that while, yes, you remember it, this aunt doesn't. You are good and fine with your husband and kids, but yet you're still holding on to something that one person said or a child overheard a grown-up saying, and they said it to you. And it took so long for me to realize I've spent more time, I want to be clear. I love my children. I adore my children.
Yeah.
And God has shown me motherhood is part of my ministry. So it wasn't like that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
My kids, I don't want people to think, oh Lord, her poor kids, they just didn't get no love. It's not that. It's a separate lesson that I was seeing, like along that same journey of loving my kids and providing and being all the things that I wanted to be for them, a better version for me, for them. All while that was going along, I also noticed I was still trying to prove something within myself to people who had moved on with their lives, could care less, didn't think about it, don't remember it. And if I said it, I'm sorry, but I don't even remember that. And they've been living their life fine. And so, yeah, it sounds a bit selfish, but that's something that it was a challenge that I did not realize while my life was going well, while God was blessing and my kids were doing well, home was doing well, and still challenges like everybody else. Overall, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. God is blessed. God is doing all the things that I desire to have and see and be, as far as wanting to be a wife, wanting to be a mother, wanting to have a family. He's blessed me with all these things. And yet there's still a small part of me somewhere underneath, behind. And if you look behind it and flip that over, okay, that corner right there, girl. Yeah, you still holding on to one conversation or one statement somebody said, and you still trying to do it more so trying to prove. Really? So that took me some time to figure out, while I'm also seeing how God was doing great things in my kids' lives and in my life and everybody else's, but it was still that small part that I had to realize you are missing out on some of the best moments of motherhood and the best moments of being a woman, because you're still trying to prove something to people who could very well care less, or who really, are they even paying your bills? No. Are they determined to go to heaven? No.
Right.
And you hope, what?
Let me ask you, do you think you held on because it was something in you something you were self-conscious about? Somebody told me, like in high school, that my lips were made funny and I shouldn't wear makeup because makeup make me actually look worse. So every time I wear makeup, I see myself looking worse with makeup on. So I never that discouraged me from wearing makeup until years ago. And I'm sharing this to make a point that one day I looked in the mirror and I was like, why do I hate my lips? And I remembered it was something somebody said, but that I took on as my own. But I also realized when people make comments about something that I'm sure about, I can care less. So I wonder if the things we hold on to are things that we kind of are self-conscious about anyway, but the person pointed out something that you were already feeling about yourself.
There can very well be some truth to that. Like, if I sit here long enough, I'm sure that there is some truth to it, in the sense of, I'm a person that I've grown to understand and appreciate what the scripture says. There is life and death in the power of the tongue. What you speak can very well bring life to a person, and what you speak can also discourage them in ways that can have long-lasting effects, and it can take long. You can say it in 1 second, and it can take years for that to reverse itself, or however you want to say it. So something that I guess it's funny that you bring it up, but it's from being younger. I'm like, the one thing I valued was time. And when I was younger, I guess words of affirmation. It's not necessarily one of mine now, and I guess because of having to be resilient in ways. But growing up, words of affirmation in time, where if I look back as big April, looking back at little April, words of affirmation and quality time were love languages that I desired as a child. And to grow up, where up until I became pregnant, the words that I received as far as words of affirmation, they were always of approval or speaking into my future and what I could be. And I needed that. And so when I really needed it in the situation where I did not expect to be a single mother going through what I went through, the one thing I needed were, you done tapped on something. Hold on here. Connecting dots. But yes, that's what I needed. I needed those same words that I had growing up when I was doing things well. I needed those same words now that I'm not. And now that I'm not, and I see you can take those words away and you can actually use those words as weapons now against me. Okay, I've never lived in that world before. Like, I've lived in the world where boys, like, I would try to find love through boys, and okay, my cousins or other folks, and they doing, and I guess I ain't to be, and I want to fit in. So I guess this is what I do. I guess I'm supposed to let them touch me and do this. But I could care less. But it was when someone said something with their words. The words did more to me than I realized, and I guess to connect the dots. So if you grew up hearing what you can be and what you will be, and as long as you're a good girl and you're doing this, and the one time that I'm not a quote unquote good girl, or I'm not living up to the ideal image, now those same words have been stripped, and it's like, you don't see me the same. Now I can't be? Wait, really? Now I can't?
Yeah, words are powerful.
They
Words
really
are powerful. And I don't know why people always say, I mean, words
sticks and
can't hurt
stones
you.
may break my
Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. They can. And words are powerful because everything is based on words. Everything started out as a
Come
word
on,
or
scripture.
a thought.
Listen.
Everything started out as a word or a thought. They're powerful. And that's why when you just said earlier, the power of the tongue, those are words. And a lot of people think, oh, why did you let that? Because words are powerful. Words carry weight. And, we have to watch what we say. Watch what we say, not just to other people, but watch what you say to your kids. Because a lot of times your kids take on your words and make them their own and realize, oh my God, why am I saying this to myself? Because that's what your mother said to you, and you take it on, and it became, and you in therapy because of words.
And it's funny, even in therapy, I had a session one time with my counselor, and she mentioned, I can't remember what the specific situation was that I was talking about. So she stopped and said, when you are in X, Y, and Z situation, whose voice are you hearing? And I had to stop, and it was like, she said, are you hearing your voice, or are you hearing someone else's voice, or are you hearing your voice with their words? And it was just like, wow. Again, words do really have long-lasting impacts, and sometimes we're hearing voices that we didn't even speak that. We heard somebody else speak it, and we took it on, and so now we repeat what they said, but we're hearing it in our voice.
Yeah.
And it's that part is even scarier, crazier, because it's like, wait, why am I saying that? That don't even sound like me. But so there is so much, and I guess that's another reason why I'm careful, or I value even to this day. If I feel like because I can very well say some things and hurt your feelings and keep it moving and not blink twice. And I've learned that about myself. So what I've grown to appreciate and learn from me going through what I went through, again, connecting the dots and full circle with you just asking that question, me recognizing I know what it feels like to have somebody say one thing in one season, and as quick as they say it, their words can change in the next. And you feel like, I didn't mean it. Wait, but it's already been said. You can't take it back. I can't unhear it. It's been said. So before I speak something, whether it's out of anger, whether it's out of ignorance, whether it's out of lack of information, I've had to actually ask God and pray to God, if it is not for me to say, have me stutter or shut up or can't get the word out or lose the thought, because I know what it feels like once words have been put out and you can't take them back. You can apologize for them, and yes, you can be forgiven for them, and people can still remember. They can still remember what you said and they can remember the tone you said it in. And it's a lot of things that I've forgiven a lot of people for that we can also we've forgiven people for, and words still have long lasting effects. So from motherhood to wifehood to whatever lane you're in as a woman, our words do matter. And I'm appreciative, even with you just going back to what you were saying earlier, as far as being intentional about what you said and how you wanted love to look for your son going in the future. So you have to reverse, and to get to that, what do I need to do now? So it's like playing chess. Checkers is one step. Chess, you all over the board. It's different moves. It requires additional thought. You can't just think one step. You have to think 2, 3 steps ahead. Not that I played chess and I'm good at it, but I'm just saying from what I've seen. I'm just saying. So it's like, we have to be 2 or 3 steps ahead. Like, okay, if I want my child to be this in the future, what am I modeling now? And if whooping and beating them is not, and I see that it's really just tearing their spirit more down versus them really being reflective, because I want them to reflect on it.
And did they learn the
lesson? Okay, that's not the method. Yes, that's probably.
They still doing it.
There you go. And so some people like, well, I'm just going to keep it whooping until I whoop it out of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
at some point, we got to, what if they said that's like the sign of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Okay. If you see beating your child is only just making them upset, making you more tired, and they still doing the same thing, okay, we need to try something else. We need to be curious enough.
Yeah. It ain't working.
To say it ain't
working. Yeah. And it didn't work on you.
Well,
so it didn't work on me. It didn't work. So from what I'm hearing is that your greatest challenge was external.
Yeah. Well,
as far as with your children. And your children, even though I'm sure it was, different things that happen and challenges or whatever, you didn't see motherhood as your greatest challenge.
No, because I've learned motherhood is my ministry. Like, I actually have a sweatshirt that I found like a couple months ago, and I wear it proudly. Motherhood is my ministry.
Yeah, I love that. I love motherhood too. I really feel like it's a blessing. It's a gift to be a mother, and I had, of course, had challenges with both my sons. My oldest son was in and out the hospital. He had club feet. And so from 4 months up until 2 years old, he was constantly getting surgeries, corrective surgeries, and in a cast. And, they had to build one of his feet. Now he run, flip. You can't even tell. But that was a challenge. But I still wore that as a badge of honor, because I said God trusted me to do this. And to love him and to be there and to, nurture him through this. And then with Zion, my youngest has Down syndrome. It didn't push me away or make me like, oh my God, it made me love him even more. Well, one, parents struggling to have kids made me grateful to have kids. And then 2, seeing the parents that were so negative toward their kids with special needs made me become an advocate for and be a voice for kids. So that's part of my ministry, so to speak, is to my advocacy. I started being an advocate and getting more involved in the special needs community, and especially with Down syndrome. But my greatest challenge with Zion was dealing with the ignorance of people, the ignorant comments, the ignorant, when he was small, them grabbing their kids, not wanting their kids to play with him as if he had some contagious disease. So my challenge was people, not just people, but ignorant people. What helped me get over that is because Zion is 21 now, so it's years of dealing with ignorance. One, dealing with ignorance as a Black woman, and on top of dealing with ignorance towards my son that has special needs, a disability, or however you want to say it, because there's so many, they keep changing what we can and can't say. So, but I'm gonna say what I say. So having a kid with a disability was challenging as far as the ignorance, and the ignorance goes beyond those who don't have kids with special needs. The ignorance is also in the community. the ignorance is also of the parents that have kids with disabilities. So seeing how they treat their kids or mistreat their kids was heartbreaking to me. So that has been my greatest challenge. But I also see it as an opportunity because it's like, okay, it's more work that needs to be done. There's more that needs to be done to not just, because at first I used to be mad at the world, society, and I was going to create these posters and put them up everywhere. And when Zion was little, I got a photographer to take pictures, and because people was like, oh, praise God. But in the same sentence, you think that my child was a mistake, but with everything else, he don't make mistakes except for with my child. So I was very angry. I was angry at religious people. I was angry at non-religious people. I was angry with ignorant people, regardless of their background, whether it's religion or their race or whatever. I was just angry at the ignorance and how they looked at my son as being this mistake or this curse, you know. So I started researching, and it became part of my mission to write films and books and stuff for people to change their perspective of those who are different. Because I have a quote that I wrote years ago, and I can't remember verbatim, but it was more like, if you accept their flaws, you'll learn to accept your own. Because we're all flawed. We all have flaws, but we tend to be afraid or shun away from those who have flaws that are in the forefront. You know, even the way you look at certain celebrities or ministers, like they can't be flawed. Everybody's flawed. And when people show their flaws, whether it's through a disability or whether it's through, you know, just them being human beings, you know, people are quick to throw them under the bus and shun them from the rest of the world, but they have flaws too. But I had to change my tone, because my tone was, I was so angry. People can't hear you when you're mad. People can't hear you when you're yelling. They tune you out, or they deem you as crazy when you get the yelling and screaming like, I just want to. And I have to realize what they're feeling is not personal toward my son, because they don't know him. What they're feeling is deeper than that. You know, so I had to learn how to change my perspective instead of trying to change the world's perspective. So I was trying to understand their perspective or whatever. Like my book Zoe is about a mom who was struggling to accept her child. It's not my story. It's fiction. But I wanted to understand, you know what I mean? So I wanted to be able to reach them and for them to identify with the character. But in order for me to write that character, I had to get in the head of that character. So again, it's parallel that our challenges as mothers were external.
I was about to say
different, but still dealing with people outside of ourselves.
If I can interject to build off of what you said, because what I keep hearing you say, and it sounds like it's something that if we all take the time, the challenge that we feel like we're facing in motherhood or whatever the transition is, in this particular case, we're talking about motherhood, some kind of way your purpose is tied to it. Because you mentioned you learned advocacy, but you started to do it through film as well, then writing. And now you're in this lane and vein of doing a podcast, and you've done award shows, so many different things creatively to bring awareness and also advocacy for what your son went through. And it also tap into you. You had to tap into something that you probably, I don't know if you were already in that vein. I know you mentioned you had a background in marketing, but
Yeah.
Did you see yourself in the lanes that you are in now since having your sons? Did you see your life going in the direction that it's in now in regards to the work that you're doing now, and you're getting your master's or PhD, or what are you getting right now?
My PhD in human services.
In
No,
who?
I did not
In the
do
who?
that. Human
Okay.
services, which is
Okay.
advocacy.
Which, I mean, so
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like, sometimes the challenges that come with motherhood, our purpose is tied to it.
It
If we
is.
actually look at it, focus on it long enough, because the challenge I felt with the words that I didn't receive or hear through support, for the longest time, my biggest drive was, I want to start a women's ministry. I need to find a women's ministry. Where's the women's ministry? And eventually God gave me the opportunity to start a women's ministry. And that women's ministry was to be a voice for those, or to be a platform or a bridge or connecting safe space for women of older and younger ages to be able to be in the same room to glean from each other. And had I not
Mm,
had the experience of knowing what it felt like, or had you not had the experience of knowing what it feels like to have a child who's beautifully born, okay, and this particular quote unquote flaw, like you mentioned, we all have flaws, it's showing up through this particular area of Down syndrome. He still is a person, he still is a beautiful person and a child, but you
right.
don't see that. So you know
Yeah.
what? Let me help you see. And so the
Yeah.
challenges that we face, whether they're external or internal, I believe there's purpose tied to it. So even if we can just encourage a
It
mother
is.
who's going through, I don't know why I'm feeling, if you into it, if you lean into it versus being resistant to it, you may very well find a part of your purpose or your calling. Maybe not your whole life's purpose and whole life's calling, but there may be you might very well be in a season where God is getting ready to do something through you and that child, or that opportunity, by being a mother, that, yeah, you're not used to this because you weren't in these circumstances before. You weren't a mother, or this type of mother, for this particular child before. But now that they're here and you're in this stage, that challenge could very well be the door or the beginning of you tapping into your God-given purpose again for that season, your lifelong,
Yeah.
and for you.
And it's not too late. It's not too late. So even if your kids are grown, it's not too late for you to realize, okay, I've made
Yeah,
mistakes, but these are the things that I've learned from being a mom. These are the things that, and not feeling regret or guilt or anything like that. But now that you recognize it, how do you move on? And I wanted to speak to that because I know there may be some parents listening like, man, I wish I would have, man, I did this wrong, my son is, maybe my son wouldn't have done this if I wouldn't have
yeah,
done, you know what I mean? So it's more like, have that conversation, just like I was saying earlier, when I realized that I was, not respecting his boundary, like before he go to work, um, realized that, okay, I was wrong for that. And I think that's where a lot of parents go wrong, is not accepting that there's some parts you did wrong. Whether you did it intentionally or not, there are some things that you did not
yeah,
do right. And being an adult enough, admit when you're wrong and say, I can't change the past, but how do we move
yeah,
forward? And rebuilding that relationship with your child, because it's your
yeah,
child and it's not all on them, and recognizing your part in it and just being woman enough to say, I
yeah,
messed up. How do we move forward? I apologize. And for the kids that's listening, that parents are either no longer around or parents that will
mm,
never apologize, accept the apology that you'll never hear.
mm,
They may never say, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to accept their
mm,
apology. So we kind of touched on it already, how each of our kids, the things, the gift of being a mother. But what gifts have your children given you to see about yourself differently?
um kids have a way of still finding a way to love you, even
Mm,
They just have a way of showing love in a way
Yeah.
that almost it's like my kids have found ways of have their own unique way of showing me love in a way that I've always wanted, because there are moments I felt I wasn't enough. Again, because
Yeah.
of words, again, kind of you really helped connect some dots for
Mm-hmm.
me on that question earlier. So some questions of, okay, was I really ever enough? Because that one situation made me now see, oh, those people, their views changed, or the way they interacted with me changed, or even the way I interact with now that's making me interact with myself differently. Um,
Mm.
because of how they viewed me. Now I'm questioning how I view me. And so
Yeah.
trying to go through life, trying to prove and be and show that I am and I'm still worthy and I'm still lovable and I can still do and be and become all the things God said I can be in Jesus' name. And that my kids could care less. Like, to
Yeah.
see them love me in a way where it's just like they just really just want me. And it reminds me of
Yeah.
what I wanted as a kid. I just wanted my mama. And we had a moment, my mom and I, a few months ago, and it was kind of weird because I was on a Facebook Live and I was talking about healing the inner child, and of all people to get on the live, and she usually would see maybe it on a replay from what I would hear, but I'd never interact with my mom on a Facebook Live. And of all the ones for her to
Yeah.
get on was the one I was talking about, parenting the little you while also parenting your children. It was some kind of way I was saying it, and that's what we were talking about. And when my mom was on there, I ended up just finding myself crying because she made a statement that brought me to tears, because it was kind of like, I wonder if you really see what I'm saying. And I found myself saying, Mama, in the end, all I really wanted was you. That's all I wanted. I
Mm.
know you had to work.
Yeah.
I knew you had to do and be. I just wanted to be around you. That's all I wanted. And in me saying that to her, God also showed me I get to actually be there for my kids. And I want to be there for my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're teenagers, young adult in college, about to graduate. And still, when I see them come home or they come in from school, or my oldest comes home from college, and she's like, Mom, I just love you. I just like being around you. Those words are some of the best words that I think
Yeah.
I could ever have gotten, because they were birthed outside. They were birthed from my body. And
Mm-hmm.
they could have very well carried or got some of the stuff that I still had inside of me, where it's like, I don't feel like I am. And I tell them all they are really the best versions of me. Like they have like the best
Yeah.
characteristics of their dad and I. Not putting them on pedestals, because they
Yeah.
know they ain't no angels. Let's be clear. They know they're not no angels. But
Yeah. Yeah.
God allowed me to see my heart outside of my body with them. I have three
Yeah.
expressions of parts of my heart outside of me looking back at me, telling me that they love me for who I am. Crazy, silly,
Yeah.
smothering sometimes, doing the most sometimes, emotional, let me be all the things. And they just like, we love you. We good with you. You're like, wait, what?
That's
That
unconditional
is just
love.
like the best thing ever
Yeah.
for your child to actually.
That's what love's
Yeah, and
supposed to be.
I would
Yeah.
change nothing for it. The relationship that I have with them. I mean, again, all of them we've gone through and are going through their own different transitions and challenges as far as they're growing up. But the foundational thing, going back to even what you said earlier about your oldest, even if you did the worst, I want to know that you can still come talk to me. That's the last thing I want, for you to feel
Yeah.
like you can't talk to me. And I told him, I'm going to always
Yeah.
support you. I may not like what you do, I may not agree with what you do, but I love you. I don't have to
Right.
like your actions.
Yeah.
I don't have to support and agree with your
Right.
actions, but I love you, the person. So even if you mess it up, even if you stumble the ball, even if you, okay, Mama, I shot and killed somebody and I'm in jail. Okay, what you need me to do? Because I'm gonna come see you in jail. I love you, and I will come see you in jail. I don't support what you did, but that don't mean you're any less than my child. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to show
I'm
me
gonna get you some
love,
help.
especially when
Yeah.
me recognizing again the little me desired and appreciated words of affirmation and quality time, and the words that were spoken over me in different areas by a few people, not even a lot, a few people that tainted the way I
Yeah.
saw myself for so long. Even despite all that, my kids can say that they love me. That's probably the best gift that they could ever give me.
Mm.
Come on, talk to
Mm.
me about, you got 2 boys.
Uh, so the best gift is love from both of them. I would say, like for Zaire, I saw some things that I instilled in him, and I'm gonna share an example. Zaire was older when he wanted to learn how to ride a bike. He was like maybe 8, and all his friends had bikes, and so I had bought him a bike, but he didn't know how to ride it, and he didn't want to use training wheels. He felt like he was too old for that. So I said, okay, well, I'll hold the seat. He didn't want nobody to hold the seat. So I said, put the bike in the car. So I took him where it was nobody at his school, at his elementary. It was like the weekend, or either the evening or the weekend or whatever, but whatever day it was, nobody was there but us. And it was a slight hill. And I kept saying, I mean, really slight hill. And I showed him how to, steer the, or whatever. I said, we're not leaving here until you can ride that bike. So we was there for maybe an hour or so. He cried. He failed so many times. He was crying. Like, come on, Mom, please. I give up. Like, I said, I can't let you give up. I can't let you give up. Because I knew in that moment, if I let him give up, it will set a tone for him to give up other things. So I said, no, you finna ride this bike. So I said, this is what you said you wanted to do. Get back up there, ride down. We did that over and over and over and I lost count of how many times. But after a while, he could ride. And he was like, like, like I'm steering it. And I said, okay, do it a few more times. I let him do it for like maybe 10 minutes of riding, just riding, because it was a walking track. I gave him some time to get pretty good at it, where he stopped falling. We went back home and he was riding the heck out of that bike. Do you hear me? So when we went skating, he couldn't skate. I didn't care whether he learned how to skate or not. So I didn't say anything to him. But he took that same principle. Before we left there, that boy they had a skating contest and he entered it. When we got there, he couldn't skate. When we got ready to leave, he was entering into contest. Then he used to watch Drumline back to back to back to back. And he wanted to be Nick Cannon in Drumline. Remember earlier I said his job is to go up to the school and train the drummers.
Come on, connections, bring it full circle.
So, but he didn't give up. He kept saying he wanted to be a drummer. He wanted to be a drummer. He would have me take him across town to go train with. It was an older group. He in high school. He was on Drumline the whole time in high school. And then when he graduated, now he goes to a different high school and teach their drummers. But I told him, I said, you have the key to success. Apply that to anything you want in life. So the lesson for me is what I taught him. The lessons, and to see him persevere every time taught me a lot of things about him and about myself. With Zion, to see him cross milestones was empowering to me. I'm inspired by my kids. I'm in awe when they do stuff like that. But Zion wanted to be in a talent show. And nobody, this the school talent show in elementary. He was in the 5th grade. And he had never been in a talent show, but I know that he loved, he loved to dance and perform in his room. So he really, and he memorizes the videos. So he came to me and he said, well, he's nonverbal. So he said in his way, he brought me the flyer from school and he was like, I want to do this. I said, this is a talent show. You want to be in a talent show? He said, he nodded his head, like was real excited, like, yes. So I said, are you sure? I said, well, what song you going to do? And he told me never say never. And, I said, okay. I said, well, you got to practice. And I said, I'm not going to go easy on you. So, I put on my Debbie Allen hat and, and did not show the boy no mercy. Huh? Because I didn't want him to get it because he had Down syndrome. I wanted him to get it because he was good. So I said, okay, we have to come up with a routine that's not too complicated, but something that because he catch on real fast. So he was just watching me and I was going through the steps. And he was just sitting there with his finger in his mouth and just looking at me. And I was like, is he getting what I'm doing? So we kept going over it. And then I said, okay, now you do it. And I sat back and he had memorized the whole thing. Because when he gave me the flyer, we only had a week to audition. So I said, if we can, so we went in, everybody looking like, oh, that's cute. I said, all right. Okay. So he got up there and the little kids that thought he wasn't a threat. Oh. Yeah. They was like, oh, he jamming. Yeah. Come ready. Huh? So
I'm start calling you Debbie every now and then. Like, okay, Debbie, I hear you.
So come ready, children. And if y'all parents want me to help y'all, Anyway, I didn't say that. But I was like, but the gift in that, to see him. So we go through that. Then he do the same song in middle school, 8th grade, getting ready to graduate from there. He performed in a talent show. And then high school, his last year, he performed. But of course, it's COVID. So we had to do everything virtually. He performed before that, he performed at the Special Olympics picnic. So they had a talent show portion, and Zion kept trying to give up because it was hard, because he did Michael Jackson. And he was like, I said, no, Zion, you can get this. I've seen you do it before. And he was like, I don't want to do it. I said, no, you're going to do it. I can't let you give up just because it's hard. So I showed him his previous video, and Zion is very competitive. So I showed him his previous videos, and I kept going over the dance or whatever. I said, you let me know when you're ready. So he kept saying, no, I don't want to do it. And then when I said, I had to convince him that you got this, you can do this. And the thing, he did it again when we did a BTS. So he performed one of their songs. It's called Mic Drop. He killed it. Do you hear me? But before he got to that, even the Michael Jackson, all his performances were really good. Before he got to that, he would give up. And I said, okay, I've seen this before. Okay. So I'm showing him, remember, you was going to give up with Michael, and look what you did. And I was like, look at the applause, look at the whatever. Even when he performed, I said, they'd be like, do you want him to go first? No. Put him in the middle or last, because I know him seeing them other kids, he's going to get it really impatient. If he go first, he might be nervous. But seeing the other kids are going to make him impatient and be like, I'm next. And it helps push him past his fears. So anyway, many things, seeing him push through and want to give up and feeling like he can't do it and all that, and seeing him persevere and then come in first place.
Come on. Okay.
He came in first place. He won the talent show. And he was the only kid with Down syndrome. Only like maybe one or two other people had special needs. But yeah, he came in first place. But to see him go from that transition of doubting himself and feeling like he can't do it, he's not gonna, and wanting to give up or wanting to go back to a familiar performance, I'm like, you can't give up just because it's hard. You have to push. We just have to rehearse more. And to see him surpass that, to see that switch go off in him, like, all right, let's do it. It does something to me, and especially seeing him go from can't walk until he's 2, can't run until he's 4, having to learn how to bounce a ball, having to learn how to, or being afraid of walking up and down stairs, being afraid of falling. To see him soar through stuff like that, every milestone that I've seen my kids go through has been a blessing to me to be a part of their journey and to be a part of their life. And to give, and for God to gift me with these beautiful angels that have taught me to stop being afraid of my flaws, that have taught me to stop doubting myself, because I wasn't just pushing them, I was pushing me too.
There's the connection, yeah.
I needed that. I needed to see what courage really looked like, what perseverance really looked like, so I can demonstrate it in my own life. And even now, still learning to be as courageous as my children. But I knew that it was something that I never wanted them to battle with. And I had to push that in them. But seeing them push past that has taught me some things about myself, has taught me to stop being so dang on afraid, has taught me to do it anyway. Keep doing it. And the lessons I was teaching them, no, you gonna fall. Yes, it's gonna be hard because it's new. So,
but everything you're saying is still is full circle. Like, it's you becoming, like, we're teaching our kids as we're also teaching ourselves, and then they end up teaching us something about them that we can appreciate, and then we also learn from them. It's a journey. It's a whole mirror reflection moment. It's a whole lot of things. Okay, God, am I giving them the best? Am I showing them the best? And then you see, okay, that really stuck. That really resonated, because I taught him how to stick to riding his bike in this situation, all for him then to like, okay, well, I can now try skating. Oh, well, you know what? I want. So you don't realize what lessons that you're trying your best, and you're praying that it sticks. You're praying that it works. You're praying you're not screwing your kids up. Praying you're not having to go to therapy. But even if you do, you're still saying, okay, I'm willing to address it. I'm willing to keep learning. I'm not going to stay stuck to this one particular way and just say, hey, no, I did the best I knew to do. And I'm also grown enough to say, and healed enough to say, or aware enough to say, I could have done some things better. I could have gotten some better tools. So when you see your kids still, despite what we give and put in them, and they still can come out, and like you said, they exceed what you envision. And then it's like, wait, if they can do it, and that's my kid, wait, like you said earlier, it's never too late. It's never too late to still try again, to go back to school. Wait, my kid, he learned how to overcome this at that age. Even though I'm 20, 30 years older than him, wait, and now I feel inspired. because of what they did. So
Yeah.
it's this whole give and take. And you were talking even about the seeds earlier with your oldest wanting to just have a moment of planting seeds. It was just like the bamboo tree, the bamboo plant. It just 5 years of growing underground, and then all of a sudden it just started shooting up. So we
Mm.
as parents
Yeah.
and as mothers, we plant seeds and we pray that we're planting the right seeds. We pray that it's landing on good ground. We pray that in due season, whatever season it is, there's spring, winter, fall, and summer as well. So in due season, when you get to see it, that okay, God, it's stuck. He got it. She understood. Okay, Lord, now that they got it, now I'm
Yeah.
inspired. Okay, now what else can we do? So it's a whole journey. It's a lot of gifts. And that's what I was hearing from everything you
Yeah.
were saying with both the stories
Yeah.
with Zaire and Zion is they both gave you gifts of seeing that, okay, I'm not sure if I'm giving it the right way, but I do know this one thing, I'm not going to let you give up. And I love you
Yeah.
enough to.
Because I didn't want you to give up in
Yeah.
life.
Again, you saw beyond the moment. You were always one or two steps
Yeah.
ahead. Like the goal that I see for you that I believe you can accomplish is X, Y, and Z. And in order to get you there, let me reverse engineer. Let me go back 2 or 3 steps. This is what I need to do now. I can't let you give up. And I will respect
Mm-mm.
your boundaries. And I'm going to also hold you to a certain standard. That ain't you. That no, you wanted to be. You always said you want to
Yeah.
be a drummer. You watched that movie, and now look at you. All the things that you were saying. Yep,
Amazing.
all of it. So
Yeah.
there.
And love, like you were saying, but also, you receive that because of what you
Yeah,
gave to them. Because not all kids love their mothers
yeah,
unconditionally.
and I've grown to learn it as well. Yep.
Yeah. So it's really what you planted in them to make them love on you so much. Yeah. It's a
It is.
beautiful thing. I think it is meant to be part of our purpose, even if it's not in being in ministry like you or an advocate like me. If you're given the opportunity to have kids, it's part of your purpose. I see so many parents that say, man, I wanted to do this with my life, but these
Mm,
kids,
mm,
and I'm like, no, them kids are with
yep.
you because it
Yep.
was meant. Even the
Yep.
unplanned weren't an accident.
I mean, we talked about a lot of things, and I think one thing we can kind of say, kind of on the closing side, that can help mothers now, like, because we're both kind of like a little bit further along in motherhood than
Yeah.
whoever may be listening. I mean, but then again, we ain't grandmamas either. Okay, I ain't trying to be that either. But anywho, there when speaking to mothers, new time mothers, um, what are some things that you have learned at this age and stage and season of your life that you can look back on that you could probably share or encourage them as far as self-care, as far as them being a woman still, learning motherhood, being a new time mother? What's a word or a couple words of advice that you could probably share to a mother who's listening right now, who's still new to the game, trying to figure some stuff out?
Yeah. The thing that I had to learn about self-care is that it's not
Mm,
selfish. I think a lot of parents feel that, and I know I did in the beginning, feeling like taking time for myself was taking the time away from my kids. And it's different if you're out in a club all night, or you're doing stuff you don't need to be out there doing. Yeah, that's selfish. But if you're taking time to better yourself as far as, you're like for me, for example, I make self-care a
mm,
priority. And it wasn't until later that I did it when I realized I was burning the wick
yep.
on both ends. But I said I had to be intentional about my me time. And what I did was make time for myself by getting up an hour or two before I have to wake my son up at 7 o'clock. So I get up around 5, 6 sometimes. And I make that time to meditate, drink some tea, pray, and just sit in
Yep.
silence, or if I'm working on something at the time, I'll start, get a jump start or whatever. But I make that my time. That's my
Yeah.
quiet time. to really prepare for the day. And that's the reason why they say in an airplane, they ask for you to do the oxygen first, because you can't help somebody else if you passed out. In order to help, and to be a better wife, a better mother, a better friend, but ultimately, a better child of God, since I was a teenager, write a list of stuff that I need to work on to be better, with things that I need to improve, things that and it may be something I saw in somebody else, and I'm like, ooh, I do that too. I need to work on that.
Yeah.
I'll just pick one or two things. Okay, I need to work on my self-esteem. Okay, I need to work on this. And I'll literally Google it. I'll, research, I'll read articles or whatever on how do I improve this? How do I improve this? How do I get better? And that's self-care too. That's self-care. Self-care is just not going to get your nails and your eyelashes and all that done. No, self-care is taking care of the being, your health, your mind, your spirit, your emotion, and work on being more adult. That's self-care to me. Taking a hot bath and just relaxing for 20 minutes, or whatever that looked like for you, soaking your feet if you're on your feet all day, just really taking that time. And it don't have to be, something you spend money on. It can be free, that you take your time and really reboot. Even a computer has to be shut down sometimes. You have to take that time for yourself so you can be better for other people.
That's real good.
So what about you?
I really just echo pretty much the same thing that you said, that self-care isn't selfish. And I didn't learn it until I was well into my 30s, as far as what that meant. And unfortunately for me, it happened because of the doctor telling me with my type 2 diabetes diagnosis. It was that far into it for me. So that was what year was that? That was 2014. So my oldest was 12 at the time. So I've been a mother for 12 years at that point and didn't know what real self-care looked like. In my eyes, being a mother and giving and being for my kids and my family, that was my way of showing love, which it was, but I didn't know how to love myself healthy wise. And I learned that I can't expect people to treat me any differently than I treat myself. So if I'm not prioritizing me, not that they don't love me, but it's like, okay, if you don't have a boundary, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, if you don't have a boundary about your time and what you can and can't do, and you say yes to everything, then okay, so if you say it, why should we treat or expect anything different of you if you don't treat or expect anything different of you? So for me, it was the health scare with the type 2 diabetes and the high blood pressure, and then the anxiety that started to come along after that. But I realized, and I had to learn the hard way, what self-care looked like, what exercise and being good to my body. I can't just eat any and everything because my body does not respond well to it. Even though temporarily, yes, I like it, it's in the long term not good for me. So I have to be good to my body. I have to be good to my mind. And it wasn't until 2021 that I started counseling. So it took years for me to really learn what good self-care and healthy self-care looked like for me. So it's not to shame anybody. It's not to put anybody on blast or make anyone feel like you don't have, we all figure it out at our own different ages and stages. But if you can hear anything from what Yvonne and I are saying is, if you are a new time mother or early in the journey, if you can learn or glean anything from this conversation that we've said this far, you are still a woman. You're still a person. Yes, you are a mother. Yes, you have different roles and hats that you are wearing in this world, and they are all well and good, and they all serve their own individual, unique purpose. And I don't want to say but, so I would just say, and you still have to take care of the person first. You are one person serving different roles. So you have to find a way to take care of you, the whole you, the physical side, the emotional, spiritual, mental, financial, relational, all those things, you have to find a way to protect it, take care of it, invest in it. And as people see you take time and invest in it, then you're also teaching them how to treat you. So that saying, if we teach people how to treat us, there is some truth to that. So I guess my twofold statement would be yes to everything you said, that self-care is not selfish, and also continue
Yeah.
to invest in you as a person. If you have dreams as a woman, yes, you may have to adjust some things because you have children, and you may have to pivot on a few things, but don't let go of who you are, as far as at the core of you. Because something I did, and just a quick side note, something a lot of women do, we tend to find ourselves saying, I just don't, I think I lost myself. I lost myself somewhere along the way.
Mm-hmm.
We usually say that
Yeah.
because we put all of our investment into other people or into this. I'm now a new mother,
Yeah.
so I have to be everything and all things to my child. Yes, you have to invest in your child,
And spouse.
and you still have to, you're no good to them. Again, like you just mentioned with the airplane analogy, you're no good to them if you're not good to yourself, if you're not even here. I mean, you literally
Right.
work yourself to death. You literally work yourself
Yeah.
to an early diagnosis of something that was possibly preventable. And like, I'm not saying some things is just life, but some things we could very well help prevent if we set boundaries early, if we assess certain things, and if we continue to invest in us as the person first. God isn't, even God rested. He worked, created, called things out, spoke things, and all the things, and then he rested. So we are still due to
Yeah.
rest. Rest is not a bad thing. And it's funny, my middle name is Rochelle, but I dropped that part of my name when I married my husband. I decided to keep my maiden name as my middle initial. So the F is for my maiden name. I dropped my
Mm.
middle name, which is Rochelle. And it wasn't until we moved to Little Rock a few years back. And I don't know why, it was nobody but God. Um, and he had to remind me, because I have a thing of, what do these names mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? Okay, so leave it to that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just the way only God could have done it. He had me to remember, because I was looking up Little Rock for whatever reason. I was like, why does this sound familiar? What, Little Rock? And I remember like, oh, wait, that's what Rochelle means. My middle name Rochelle means Little Rock, and it also means rest.
Mm.
I never saw that definition
Mm.
associated to my middle name. I always saw Little Rock. My oldest, her name is Jasmine. Her
Yeah.
name means Big Rock. So it was like, okay, yes, we were both the rocks, but I never associated or read the part of my name that meant rest. And it wasn't until 2020.
Mm.
So again, all the things
Wow.
that we go through as women, we can sometimes lose ourselves or invest in other people, other people's dreams, and sometimes wear ourselves so thin that God has to find a way to remind us. And He's reminding me in different seasons, even down to me forgetting who I was, forgetting that part of myself. I didn't forget it. I just didn't
Yeah.
add it as part of my legal name. But I forgot that part of me, and God had to remind me, your name means Little Rock. And yes, ironically, I brought you to Little Rock, Arkansas. And also, it means rest. And there is nothing selfish in it.
Mm.
So, kind of a long-winded way of answering and piggybacking off of everything you just said regarding self-care, but you're a woman first. You do deserve to invest in you. You need rest. You need to pace yourself. You need to find a thing that works for you, that keeps you inspired as a person, so that you can fill yourself up and give and minister to other people from a full cup. Because, yeah, let me not go into all that, but so that you can be able to minister in motherhood with all the challenges and the rewards that come with it, as best as you can.
Yeah.
Try to do it from a cup that is filled, and you find fulfillment in what you're doing. So yeah.
So it's two things I want to point out. One, I wanted to make sure that whatever parent is listening, fathers too, if you're struggling with parenthood, be brave enough to get help.
Mm-hmm.
Be brave enough to ask, get counseling, whether it's through your church or whatever your religion is, or whether it's through a therapist. But getting help with your mind It's necessary because it's the one thing, if we lose it, you lose everything. So if you're struggling, if motherhood is that challenging, it's deeper than the motherhood that's causing the challenges. It's deeper than that. So I really, if you're struggling with it, whether you have a kid with special needs or not, or whatever you're struggling with, be brave enough to get the help so you can be better. And that's self-care. That's self-care. That's necessary. It's not optional. If you need help, get help. So I wanted to point that out. The other thing too is that happened for me too. As far as when I had my heart attack, that's when, no, actually before then, I had a very mild stroke when I was 31. And that's when I found out I was diabetic. And that's when I realized I have to start taking better care of myself. But I didn't really do that until years later when I had a heart attack. And then I said, this is not an option. I have to take time with myself. I mean, since I was a teenager, I was still like, working on my inner self. It was years before my heart attack when I started working on my physical self. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's not one without the other. You can't just take care. And I wasn't taking care of all three. I was taking care of the mind and the spirit, but I wasn't taking care of the body.
Yeah, we forget about it.
I was thinking me taking care of my mind and spirit was enough. My relationship with God is enough. Me being a good mama is enough. Other thing that I wanted to bring up before we go was that this message is not just for moms that bear children, but adoptive moms, foster moms, no matter how you became a mother, what we're talking about is for all mothers and parents too. If you're a man and you listening, then this message is for you too, because I believe fatherhood is just as crucial and important as motherhood. Yeah, so I just wanted to point them things out. Yeah, this was a great conversation, Miss April.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Yvonne.
Yeah, and I hope that, these conversations may not cover every aspect of the topic, but it's a hopefully it sparks a conversation. And I hope that those listening, we really do want to hear what you think. We really do want to know what resonated with you, what didn't, and to let us know in the comments or to reach out to either one of us and just let us know what you think about the show. It really, really does matter. So that way we know, and to know that, we don't do this just to hear each other talk. We do it because we really do want people to walk away with something. So to let us know that you did walk away with something, it does good. It warms our heart.
Sure. We all are going through different experiences, and if we can share something to help somebody else, there's a song that says, if I could help somebody as I travel along, then my living is not in vain. If it encourages you to go on or continue to try, or I'm going to do a deep breath. Okay, I didn't think of it that way, but thank you for that. If that's all you got, we pray that it's helpful enough for you to stay encouraged to keep going. So I totally agree with everything you said. We definitely want to hear how it resonates with you.
Yeah. So April, thank you. Great conversation. It was good talking to you.
As always.
Yeah. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I hope that this resonated with you. As I said earlier, to get in touch with either one of us, our contact information is in the description of this episode. I hope you find each episode to be valuable. Remember, investing in your intentional healing and growth is a gift to yourself. Until next time, be blessed.
Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About Healing with Yvonne Pierre. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share.